Okay, then you go back to the market and you discover that maybe the price has a bit risen. Maybe at last you bought it at 15,000, and this time you find that the price is 15,900. So quickly you try to reflect back on the last price, and at the same time you also try to make some calculations that if you buy at a lower price, and how much are you going to sell to your friends, at least to make some profits. And later on you try to negotiate with the seller so that you buy it at a certain price. So looking at this example, it's like you went through different stages. Like the first one, you developed a framework of experience, of the past experience, how you bought it, and you also regarded the selling and buying. You tried to negotiate with the seller so that you see how are you going to sell your friends and also try to make some profits. And secondly, this process of doing some calculations and this process of trying to negotiate with the seller, it happened so fast and it was just like automatic. And thirdly, at the same time, this mental framework reaches a point of being prone to some errors as well as some biases. In what sense? Like the way you were trying to negotiate with the seller, it was like there is an element of bias. Okay? So in this chapter of social cognition, we'll discuss some aspects of social information, how the social information is processed. And we'll look into nonverbal communication. Now I remember I told you to read about the nonverbal communication. Okay, so we'll look into the nonverbal communication as one aspect of social cognition. So nonverbal communication is one of the studies that psychologists did. In nonverbal communication, it's more involved in encoding and decoding, and it happens consciously and unconsciously. Encoding is defined as our ability to express emotions in a way that can be accurately interpreted by the receiver. This means in encoding, it's whereby one has spoken some words, and you are able to convert those words into writing. Okay. While in decoding, it's whereby we have an individual maybe who is not able to speak, but he can put words in writing, and you are able to convert those writing into spoken words. Okay, are we clear on that? Are we clear? The encoding is whereby one speaks and you interpret those speaking into writing. Okay? While decoding, it's written words and they are converted into sound, in short. So we say there are many forms of nonverbal communication. The term usually means conveying thoughts or feelings without words. We only use the body language or the sound as the media. So this nonverbal communication, it's whereby we communicate intentionally or unintentionally, but still we are not using words. And many channels that are used in nonverbal communication are facial expression, eye contact, body movements, and the body posture, as well as the touching. So this nonverbal communication takes place in different social settings, even though it's not mostly recognized. Normally, it makes up a substantial portion of our communicative experience. So much research has been done recently to analyze different kinds of nonverbal communication. And these researches which were done were trying to address issues of interpersonal, issues of intergender communications, as well as also try to address interactions in to address issues that appear or that happens in the interaction between the business situations, and also compare the male versus female interpretations of nonverbal behavior. Commonly, most of us, we associate facial expressions and gestures with nonverbal communication. But these are not the only types that are involved in nonverbal communication. We have a lot of them, like the facial, gesture, and paralinguistics, body posture, and body language, as well as eye gaze looking and staring, the blinking of the eye itself, and haptics, as well as the appearance of an individual. These are also different forms or different ways how nonverbal communication occurs. Okay, do we have any questions? So let's look on the facial expression. The facial expression itself makes the large proportion of nonverbal communication. So the way we express our face tells a lot in our in our communication. It may explain that we are not happy, or we are maybe afraid of something, or may also express the happiness. So the face itself takes a vital part in nonverbal communication. On gesture, primarily the gesture itself involves the use of hands. The pointing itself, waving, and sometimes we may point an individual, also may be accompanied with some sounds. For example, you may point like this with a word, you. Okay? So this is what's all about in gestures. In gestures, you can tell a person's attitude by just looking on the way he's moving, the steps he's taking. Let's look on paralinguistics. Go ahead, read.
Silence, tone of voice, loudness. The tone of voice can be powerful. The same sentence said in a different tone can convey tone of voice may indicate the approval or the enthusiasm, whereas the same sentence said with a less than tone of voice may convey disapproval or the lack of interest. Truth, tones, laughs, and grants. The vocal behaviors such as speech, motion, volume rate, filler words, pronunciation, articulation, accent, and silence often do considerable information.
Okay, thank you. During our first initiation, as I said, non-verbal communication it involves much about body language and the sound itself. So paralinguistics is one of the type which deals much with the sound, like yawning or grunting. Grunting, it's whereby one is like one who is very sick and produces a certain sound. Inichichewa is kubuulira. So paralinguistic is more about the sounds. The tone itself, like the way how produces the sound, may determine whether it's the positive thing or the negative thing. Or in another example, I can say the approach itself. One may mention the same word in a proper way, like in a positive way, but the same word, one can also produce it or mention it in a provoking way, like a disagreement. Let me give you an example, like just the word stop. The stop itself can be announced in two different words. One can say stop. The sound of stop, the way I mentioned it, it gives a positive, one can have a positive attitude towards it. and may really stop. But someone can also announce the same stop in a provoking way, like stop, and one cannot align to that, may not uh, agree with your words. So on body language and posture. Yes, read.
A person's posture and movement can also convey a great deal of information. Arm crossing or leg crossing conveys different meanings. Body language is very subtle and may not very
Okay. So the body language itself is also one way of giving information to our friends. Like for example, crossing the hands like this, maybe one can interpret that I'm maybe disappointed with something, okay? Or one can interpret that maybe I'm just quiet, I don't want to speak with anyone. So the body language itself uh, talks much in our communication. Yes, continue.
unlike facial expression. Body language doesn't tell us what emotion we are feeling, but rather how well we are coping with the emotion feel.
So, okay, stop. Here, this statement is like trying to compare the body language and the facial expression. So it says the body language is there to tell us about our emotions, while the facial expression tell us about our coping emotions. Okay, continue.
Feeling satisfied, frightening, or distasteful tend to move away from the heavy swallowing or licking of your lips, touching your hair, or scrolling out on the couch can be signs of stress, or the feeling of security.
Mhm. Can you tell us what that statement is all about? Mhm. Mhm. Okay, so the body language, like the way you scratch your head, maybe it means you are trying to sort out something, or you are trying to think much on something, or as well as maybe you are stressed or you have an interest on something. So all these aspects that we are discussing, we should marry them with our main topic of social cognition. The personal space. The amount of distance we need and amount of space we perceive as belonging to us is referred as proxemics. The amount of space you or your character needs is influenced by a number of factors, including social norms, situational factors, as well as personality characteristics and level of familiarity. Here it means this personal space is like how one wants to distance himself or herself from another maybe particular thing or from a specific characters. For example, maybe your friend behaving in a way that you don't like, so you give a distance. You don't want to associate yourself with them. And another example is whereby maybe you are interested in someone, so you come close to that person. Or when you hug someone, it means there is a liking or an intimacy. So personal distance tries to explain on those areas. On eye gaze, looking, staring, and blinking. They are all considered types of eye gaze. Looking at another person can indicate a range of emotions, including hostility, interest, or attraction. Eye behaviors plays a role in several important types of relational interaction. So the way we use our eyes also is another part of communication. The way you look at an individual, one may have different informations. Maybe you are interested with that person, or maybe you are not happy with that individual. So the look itself tells much. The blinking. If one is continuously blinking, what can you tell on that? Or what is she trying to communicate to you? Sorry? Yeah, sometimes fear. What else? Or maybe it's also trying to communicate to us that maybe she or he has some problems with the eyes. So you need to draw attention to that condition. Haptics. Yes, read.
This refers to communicating through touch. Haptics is especially important in childhood. That is one of our five senses, but every touch has a different value. Something you need to know. Five major areas of touching is visual touch, improving, giving touch, power and control touch, basic touch, linguistic touch. Touch can be used to communicate energy.
Okay. So the haptics is all about the touch. The touch itself has different meanings, like you may touch an individual in a caring way, or you may touch an individual like you have some desires, or you may touch an individual in a way that you want to show your aggressiveness. So, as it says that the touching itself have major 5 areas. The affectionate touch, the caregiving touch, power and control touch, aggressive touch. The affectionate touch, it's whereby you touch maybe your girlfriend, while the caregiving touch, it's whereby a nun, how he touches the baby in a care way so that the baby doesn't fall. And there's also this patting touch, the way you touch your friend here, a patting. This one is also a caring touch. And aggressive touch, you know, in cases of crime, what happens? How can you demonstrate the aggressive touch?
Way and
That's it. We are now on appearance. This is the last type of nonverbal communication. Our choice of color, clothing, hairstyle, and other factors affecting our appearance are considered as means of nonverbal communication. So here it means the appearance itself is how we look into something, how we interpret the outlook of something. Okay, it's either the dressing code itself, the way how one has, the way one has dressed up may interpret something to us. It's either we may like the dressing itself or not. Even the hairstyle itself or the color of it's either the skin color or the color of the dress, etc., etc. Do we have any questions or comments on types of nonverbal communication? Any questions? So apart from nonverbal communication, we also look into the impression formation and management. So impression formation is a psychological process where we develop our views or our opinions about others, but based on the information we receive about them. So this process plays a crucial role in how we interact with others and plays and how we navigate our social world. So as human beings, we are called social beings that we continuously interact in our daily living. So this interaction gives us the chance of how we judge our friends depending on the views that we had on the information we got. So in short, it's like we get different informations about our friends. So in those informations that we have, we try to view those information and come up with the judgment of the behavior of our friends or their characteristics. So the impression formation lies at the heart of our social experience. This process of impression formation is not a random one, but it is influenced by various factors, including the information we receive, like the recent information, as well as the previous experience, and also our state of mind, the current mood, that is. So this impression formation happens in the professional setting as well as in the social setting. So can you please read on the professional setting?
In professional setting, such as a job interview, question information the interviewer first encounters candidates resume, provides the first set of information, skills and experience. During the interview, the appearance, communication style, and responses to questions, whether informed. Question formed during this process.
Okay, so impression formation in the profession setting starts with the review of one's CV. After looking into one's CV, one may have an impression, the first impression of individual's performance. Later on, during the interview, on the conversation or how one is responding to the interview also gives another impression. So it's like at first, when you reviewed one's CV, you had a certain impression. Later on, during the actual interview, you also had another impression, which included or which later on gave a decision of employment. Social setting is another type. In social settings, the process of impression formation is just as prevalent. It's so wide. It appears in different settings. For example, when meeting someone, for the first time, we initiate first impression, maybe just looking at an individual, you may have an impression of maybe negativism or being have a positive impression with that individual just after having the first conversation. You may also come up with the good relationship after the first conversation, that she was so friendly, and you may keep that friendship, or you may maintain that friendship. On the other hand, if they appear to be uninteresting, maybe you may decide to discontinue the friendship. So all in all, this social setting means the first impression that we have leads to how we are going to maintain our relationship with our friends. So in both the professional and social setting, it's important to remember that while our impressions guide our interaction or our decision, they are not always accurate, and we should revise our decision before we come up to the final decision. So this statement says, in both professional and social setting, it's important to remember that while our impression guides our interaction and decisions, they are not always accurate and should be open to revision as we get more information. Any question on impression formation? The influence of bias in impression formation. Impression formation, despite its crucial role in interpersonal relationships and interactions, is not as capable process, because it is prone to the influence of bias and prejudice. And these biases often they are subconscious and can significantly parallel our understanding and interpretation of information that we encounter. So we need to bear in mind that this impression formation is not all that accurate. We cannot rely much on it because it is prone to some errors as well as some biases. So on this impression formation, we have two different types of biases. We have the cognitive bias. Read on that.
They are the systematic errors in thinking that can influence the decisions and statements of people. One of the most prevalent biases in impression formation is the halo effect, where the perception of the positive trait in impression influences the perception of other traits. For instance, if an individual is considered attractive, they might be perceived as more sociable, successful, or intelligent than they actually are.
Okay, so this cognitive bias, it's more about the errors that we make in our thinking, and that leads to the judgments we make. There is this halo effect. Do we know the halo effect? It is a tendency of creating an impression on one, and you also try to influence that to some areas. Like you have a positive mind on something, and you try to influence that positiveness or the positivity to spread into different areas or into different angles. Like this example, which says an individual is considered attractive, and just because you are taking that person being attractive, then you also think that this person might be intelligent, or is also sociable, or is more successful in different activities, just because he is attractive. So this attractiveness is aligned in different aspects of activities. Another example can be, or the opposite of that one, like when one is not attractive, you may think that he is dull, or he doesn't like to associate with other people. Okay? So this is all about how we consistently think or make errors in our thinking and come up with wrong decisions. Confirmation biases. This is the tendency to seek or interpret or remember information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs or impressions. For example, we may have our favorable friend and we are more likely to notice and remember their positive behaviors and ignore the negative behavior. This example is trying to explain that once you are in terms with a particular person, you only consider all the positive things, or what comes in your mind are the good things only, and you ignore the negative behavior. Another example, it's like I'll talk about the political issues. The cadets, they love the party much to the extent of not even recognizing any mistakes. Even if one tells them that this party killed another person, they don't even hear. They disregard that. We only concentrate on the positive things. Okay? Or maybe when you first meet, you two, when you first came to know each other, I was trying to give another example that during your first time when you met, maybe he served you with maybe a lunch, okay? So your impression was him is a good person, because I was so angry he tried to serve me with some food that no one could offer. So after that,